This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sweet Saudi money hysteria. How one little rumor led the internet to lose its ever-loving mind. Is there more to the story behind Stephanie McMahon resigning from WWE? Dax Harwood gives an update on the future of FTR. And Ric Flair is still a top draw in the world of professional wrestling. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, your host with the most, and I am here enjoying another week in the wild world of professional wrestling. It has been an insane week. I had to bust out a special YouTube exclusive video earlier in the week. It's not something that I do often. I save the clips for my end of the week wrap-up show. But it's just one of those weeks where if you're not on top of the news, you're behind the news, right? Stephanie McMahon resigned this week. I talked about that in an exclusive. If you have not heard that video yet, I dive into it fully, explore all the different angles around Stephanie leaving and do some speculation that we're going to do a little bit more of here today. But I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. Just fucking insane week, man. I can't say enough about it. This is already the biggest wrestling story of all time, and we are 14 days into the month of January, into 2023. It's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be a nutty fucking year, but I am here for it, and I am glad that you guys are here for me. And with that said, I'm just going to quit yakking, and we're going to jump right into our first topic here today. Sweet Saudi money hysteria. The wrestling internet world was taken over this week by random theories that the Saudis had not only been in the running to buy WWE, but had in fact closed the deal and purchased the WWE from the cold, dead hand of Vince McMahon. This was the rumor that was perpetuated throughout the internet this week, and everybody lost their shit about it. This, I believe, came from Steve Milhausen, who had put out that sources had confirmed that a deal was already done or maybe close to done. And then every news site started running with this. And this was the big chatter. Podcast started talking about it. People were posting about it in all these Facebook groups. Saudis bought WWE. Hashtag WWE sold. And everybody had all but confirmed this. This was the widely believed theory that WWE was bought and paid for by the Saudi Arab Prince Empire. But in fact, this was not the case. Take a look at this clip from Sean Ross Sapp as he talks about how all this got out of hand and what exactly happened here and how we got to this point.
Last night, there was a very vague tweet, and I want to specifically say what it says. That way I can't misquote it, but it was Brian Alvarez, and it was at
9 o'clock Eastern.
It was at 8:57 Eastern. Says, I think monster news is imminent. Well, when that happens, and I'll be the first to say, sometimes I'll post eyeball emojis, GIFs, something like that. A story is coming imminently when I do that. I'm not going to peace out. And Brian dipped out, went away, and you never know when that's going to be covered. Dave posted up there. Seems like it. No idea of when a story would come or anything. When that happens, I think when I counted, Jimmy, I had over 200 DMs from the time that happened to the time I posted a tweet. And I found out what that was about, what that speculation was about. But I battled with even putting it out there. And then I talked to a sports writer who is nationally featured on TV all the time. And they said, you know what? When this happens, Schefter will go in the air and he'll say, this is a rumor. I can't confirm it. But just so you know, this is what people are talking about. And quite honestly, I was kind of sick of getting messages about it. So I said, okay, here's what the vague tweets are about, where everybody's like, uh-oh, if what I hear, the rumor was WWE had already finalized or was working on a deal to sell to Saudi Arabia in a very vague sense, right? And I made sure to say, in no way have I confirmed this. I've been given no indication that this is actually the case. And I know where some of it emerged from. Some of it, not all of it. I can't speak to how Dave, Brian, or anybody, but there was a specific group chat among a pretty connected and prominent person who predicted and speculated it based off of the fact that Stephanie had stepped down as co-CEO. And the idea was, can't have a woman as co-CEO if Saudi Arabia is taken over. And then a person in that group chat went and fed that to a couple of people as like, yeah, I think this is happening. And then provided more details and seemed to embellish it a little bit as well. And then it went from there. Now, meanwhile, I know that I'm asking people. I know for a fact that John Alba was asking people. I know for a fact that Brandon Thurston was asking people. And we were given no indication of this. No indication that any of this was actually going to happen like that. And holy cow, man. Holy cow. What a mess. And I want to say this. I really like Cassidy. Cassidy is one of my best friends. I wouldn't have ran with that story. I like Steve Muehlhausen. He has bylines here at Fightful. He covered the Punk trial for us. DAZN made him delete that tweet for a reason. Because
he did.
It wasn't true.
A lot of wrestling journalists have been losing sleep this week, staying up all hours trying to confirm or deny the truth to this Saudi story. And it took a couple days, but in fact, it was proven to not be the case, at least not yet. The Saudis are still certainly in the running to buy WWE, so we're not out of the storm yet. We're not in the clear. But WWE has not been sold at this time. It's a bit of a process. You can't just sell a company overnight unless the Saudis just offered them so much stupid money, you know, their dirty oil money that they like to buy propaganda with. You know, they could have just wrote a giant check to WWE that was so big, so massive, so much more than WWE could possibly be worth or get from any other company, that they would just have to take that deal, and it was a done deal that quick. But these things take time, and that was just not going to be the case. Now, a lot of people are wondering why WWE would even sell to the Saudis, especially after all the outrage and chaotic fucking responses on the internet this week. Like I said, everybody lost their ever-loving mind over this whole Saudi situation, and rightfully so, because if WWE sold to the Saudis, it's going to piss a lot of people off. There's a lot of people that just aren't going to want anything to do with that, me included. I would never watch WWE again in my life. They would never get another nickel out of me if they were owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Saudis. But they're certainly in the running, and WWE could have to sell to them if they make the biggest offer, because when you are a publicly traded company, you owe it to your stockholders to take the best deal. Now, of course, I'm no expert in this matter, but I did take a pretty good crash course in it over the summer, over the whole Elon Musk buying Twitter gimmick. I followed that story pretty closely, And if you remember, maybe you were following it too, maybe not. Twitter didn't want Elon Musk to buy the company. They were they poo-pooed the idea pretty quickly. But it was kind of Elon kind of had him over a barrel because he offered them so much. He paid more for Twitter than anybody else was ever going to even dare to offer for Twitter. He paid way over the market value for it. And they had to take the deal because you have a financial responsibility to the shareholders of your company when you are publicly traded. You cannot turn down a bigger money offer for a lower one just because you don't want to do it. This is the same situation we'll talk about a little bit later, but, with Vince wanting to stay in power and that sort of thing, writing that into the deal and stuff. At the end of the day, WWE being a publicly traded company, putting themselves on the market through JP Morgan Chase, they have to sell to the highest bidder. And the highest bidder could very well be the Saudis. The Saudis have endless fucking money. Endless fucking money. And they're trying to buy propaganda. They bought a whole Gulf League, and they're investing in lots of other stuff. They want to ingratiate themselves into the world. They want to put out this persona that they're not bad guys, that they're this wonderful country that everybody loves to visit, and they want to be part of the world community and get people to travel to Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. And there's rumors that the reason Stephanie left is because the Saudis bought it. And my God, we can't have a female CEO in charge when the Saudis own things, and that's why none of this is true. It's all bullshit. But Saudis could very well make the biggest play. They have the most money to play with. It's just a matter of how much do they want to buy into this. And we could see a very different landscape in professional wrestling if that's the case. And quite frankly, like I said, I wouldn't want anything to do with it. I don't know. I'm sure they would keep Vince in charge. I'm sure it would be business as usual. The Saudis aren't going to come in and micromanage it per se. The Saudi prince ain't going to be booking shit. He might, though. Remember they were throwing out, they were trying to fantasy book their cards for Crown Jewel. They wanted Yokozuna to come back and wrestle one more match, and the Ultimate Warrior to come back and wrestle one more match. All the while, unbeknownst to them, these folks have been dead and can't come back from the dead to wrestle a match. That's why they had that weird sumo guy come out for no reason in Saudi Arabia. This whole thing's ridiculous. Now, WWE is, in fact, for sale. I see a lot of people even speculating that, they're not even going to sell. They've been for sale for a lot of years now. There's been rumors of it, but they hired JP Morgan Chase to facilitate this. And this is actually the first step in the process of a sale. And in fact, I do have another clip here from Fightful, from the list and your boy. This is talking about the process of a sale from Jimmy Van. He is the owner of Fightful. He's the money guy there. He owns businesses. He knows a thing or two about it. And he's going to walk us through the process of a corporate sale of a publicly traded company. Check out this clip.
The first thing that you do is you hire a firm to represent you. And they announced a couple of days ago that they've hired JP Morgan to represent them. I am of the belief that that was the catalyst for Vince coming back. Like, this is my opinion. I think that WWE knew at least a month ago that they were going to go with JP Morgan. I think Vince got wind of it. And I think Vince thought, oh shit, the process has started. Well, they're not doing it without me. And that led to him returning. And that's my opinion. So they've got the firm to represent them. Yeah. Once you have the firm to represent them, now you have to solicit buyers. That's what the firm does. They solicit buyers. They get them to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Then they can schedule meetings with the sellers and Q&As and do the whole song and dance and all of that. That takes a little while. That doesn't take a day. That takes a little while to do. Then after that, any interested buyer, they sell what they call an LOI, or a letter of intent. And basically the letter of intent is where they pitch their offer, their bid, their payment structure, all of that. The seller, in this case WWE, they will choose one of those LOIs, one of those letters of intent. Then due diligence happens. And this is a very extensive process. They look at financial statements. They look at employee contracts. They look at vendor contracts. They might want to look at the tech code, anything proprietary that WWE owns. It's a very extensive process. Once that's all done, if they pass through and if WWE accepts an offer and if they're cool with the DD, the due diligence, then they do the purchase agreement. Then they have the close date. And because WWE is a public company, they have to have shareholder approval, which is easy because Vince has majority voting rights, and they have to have SEC approval.
Right. So despite the fact that the Saudis could absolutely still be in the running, they have not bought WWE, and nobody else has bought WWE yet. With the hiring of JP Morgan Chase, now certainly they could just cut ties and decide they want to keep it instead, but hiring JP Morgan was the first step in the eventual sale of WWE. This company is for sale. This company will be sold most likely this year, is the rumor on the street. And this is a ever-changing day-by-day situation. News can break in this stuff at any point. And we're hearing lots of rumors of lots of different suitors that are still in the mix. Comcast is absolutely in the mix. NBC Universal, Comcast, they're already paying, billions to the WWE. They are still in the mix for this. Disney could absolutely still be in the mix for this. Apple could be in the mix for this. Tony fucking Khan could be in the mix for this, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. Lots of people throwing their hat in the ring. WWE is up for sale, and this will absolutely change the landscape of professional wrestling, and I'm here for it. I'm excited to see it. Hopefully it's not the beginning of the death of professional wrestling, which I think could be the case if somebody like the Saudis get in charge, or you get some corporate moron that takes over and installs, instead of somebody that actually knows what they're doing with wrestling, they put in like a Jim Herd to come in and fucking make the Ding Dogs tag team and make Roman Reigns shave his head and call him fucking Spartacus or something. You never know what could happen, but it remains to be seen at this point, and no one has bought it yet. But stay the fuck tuned, because this is an ongoing story. Could the Khan family, and that's Tony and Shad Khan, be in the running to buy the WWE? This was the rumor that got out this week after an article in Barron's magazine, I believe it was on their website actually, a business magazine, had put out a story that Shad Khan, owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Fulham football team and all kinds of other shit, I'm sure has, investments in, and of course AEW, are in the running to buy WWE as well. They are said to be interested in doing this. And again, the internet just fucking went nuts on this. I actually got into a couple arguments with people in Facebook groups on this one. This was fun. People just don't seem to believe that this is a possibility. They balk at it. They laugh at it. This is a big fucking joke to them. But it's not a joke. And I'm going to explain to you why. But before I do, let's go ahead and listen to a clip from Jim Cornette on Corny's Drive-Thru, where he does the very same thing. He scoffs at it. He balks at it. He laughs at the very idea that the Khans could be in the running to buy WWE. Listen to this clip and then catch me on the flip side why I explain to you that they absolutely are in the running to buy WWE. Check this out.
Oh, come on.
Lots of questions have come in about potential buyers, but an inordinate amount have come in about the idea that Tony should, or that Tony could, or that Tony would buy WWE. So without dismissing it and laughing about it, what are your thoughts on the Khans as potential buyers of WWE?
Okay, in all honesty, and I think we mentioned this when we did the breaking news on Vince first coming back. Yes, Shad Khan was willing to give his son his inheritance early so he could see him enjoy spending it. But I don't even know if Shad, and Shad has other children, doesn't he? But I don't know if even he is prepared to say, okay, let's get into a $6 billion deal, Tony. You've been doing so well with what you got. And then they wouldn't sell it to him because, again, if you're, whether it's the WWE or whether it's Sony Pictures or whatever major entertainment entity, yeah, you might want Warner Brothers Discovery to buy it, or Disney to buy it, or NBC Universal to buy it, or whatever. But just because some fucking clown that won the lottery had $6 billion, would you say, okay, well, he's outbid Warner Brothers Discovery or NBC Universal by $200 million, so we're going to sell it to the fucking guy that's going to bring $6 billion in a shoebox? So, no, it's ridiculous. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Corny's not alone, dude. People are laughing their ass off at this situation. And now look, before I get into my rant on the cons being in the running here, I do want to say that I don't think the cons are going to buy WWE. I think it'll end up with a big media conglomerate. I don't even think it's going to end up with the Saudis. I think one of these big U.S. media companies are going to end up acquiring WWE. But that's just me. That's just speculation, completely based on the information we have so far. But to say that Tony and Shad Khan are not in the running to buy WWE is it's stupid. And it's uneducated, to be quite frank. I got into an argument, a couple arguments on Facebook. Just somebody put a post and they were kind of laughing about it, and saying that, how that's just never going to happen, that it couldn't happen. And because Shad's not going to spend all that money on WWE or whatever. Shad Khan is worth 11 or $11.5 billion. There's only 2,700 and change, about 2,750 billionaires on the planet, and Shad Khan is one of them. You always hear Chris Jericho brag, my boss has more money than your boss, talking about WWE, right? Vince is a billionaire. The Khan family are multi, 10 times over billionaires, at least on paper, right? So he has the money to do it. But again, people in these Facebook posts were arguing, yeah, but he's not going to spend his fucking whole life savings, his entire net worth on the WWE, which is said to be going from, UFC sold for $5 billion back in 2016. WWE is going to go for considerably more than that at this point. Not quite 10 though. I would expect to see WWE sell in the 7 to 8 range. That's going to be my guess, 7 to 8 billion. And certainly they're right. Shad's not going to cash out 7 of his $11 billion to buy the WWE. However, it doesn't work like that. And I tried to explain this to people as well in the Facebook, and then I got yelled at for that. People don't want to be educated. And that's what frustrated me so much about my Facebook interactions this week. I didn't jump in and try to go, well, actually, it's me. I'm trying to educate people because I went through this over the summer. I followed the Twitter thing very closely. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, maybe not anymore, apparently. It's all made up numbers on paper anyway. That's not how this works, though. Elon Musk did not pay $44 billion out of his own pocket for Twitter. He brought in other investors. All you got to do when you're buying a big company like this is you have to put up a percentage. You got to put up a good chunk of your own. The Khan family only needs to put up probably a couple billion, 1, 2, maybe 3 billion of their own money, which is, still a very large chunk. Don't get me wrong. And this is why, again, I don't think they will buy it, but this is why they could. People don't want to hear this. People just want to get mad about it. Well, they can piece it together. They can put in a couple billion themselves, and then they can leverage the rest. They can either get angel investors that just want a little piece of the change but don't want to actually run it, or they could just, borrow money from other investors, and then they can get paid back with a little interest over time. The WWE is worth it's a money printing machine. That was something else. So after I had said no, they don't need to. Somebody else was like, well, who's gonna want to invest in the WWE? You know, like they're gonna be able to find people to invest. Shut the fuck up. WWE prints money. They are a money printing. You're buying a money printer when you buy the WWE. They are a proven commodity. They have multiple billion-dollar media rights deals in place. They got the billion-dollar deal with the Saudis. They got the billion-dollar deal for the WWE Network. They got a billion-dollar TV rights deal for fucking. You guys don't know what you're talking about, man. All the licensing and merchandise and stuff. Now, they're not going to make their money back overnight, but this is far from a stupid investment or a risky investment. It's been around for 50, 60 years in its current iteration. It's been around since the 80s, at least, as the worldwide force in sports and entertainment, you know. This is absolutely a fair buy. And look, Shad Khan used to take fucking Tony to the WWF shows as a kid. And Shad used to watch Tony watch it on the TV and stuff. Shad's well aware of the WWE. He knows all about it. He knows how long they've been around. And trust me when I tell you, when Tony was trying to get AEW up and started, Shad got to see a lot of numbers from what WWE was doing as Tony tried to talk him into showing him the market value and the potential worth and the potential profitability and all of this stuff of another wrestling company. Here's what a wrestling company can do in the industry. Shad's not a stupid man. He's not. He loves his son very much, and he trusts his son. His son is a very smart and savvy businessman, despite what all of you fucking people would like to think about Tony Khan, and myself included at times as well. Tony Khan is a very smart guy. You know what I mean? He's a numbers guy on top of that. Shad and Tony absolutely can take a look at this and go, yeah, this is absolutely something we would want to pursue. They put a couple billion into it, invest in it themselves, and then they can seek out some outside investors to help them put that deal together. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars, which are on their way to a possible Super Bowl win. They own the Fulham football team, who got bumped up to the Premier League, which is like, you know, they have different, you know, there's like a lower and a higher level. You know, there was a couple years back, people were giving Tony Khan shit for Fulham being knocked down, and they were saying, oh, he's a bad manager and he's spreading himself too thin. Well, it appears Tony Khan's doing himself pretty goddamn good right now. And let's not forget the fact that getting a TV deal, a national TV deal on a giant network like Turner is not a small deal either. You know, that's something that pretty much nobody has been able to accomplish except for Vince McMahon. You know, even Ted Turner with WCW, they had, you know, Turner already owned the TVs, so they didn't have to shop around for a TV deal. Vince McMahon's really the only guy that's been able to get a multi-million-dollar to $1 billion TV deal. Tony Khan being able to do that for AEW, any way you slice it, whatever you think of him or the deal or whatever the case, that's a big fucking move. These guys know what they're doing. They have the skills, they have the talent, they have the money and the resources and the knowledge of the industry to put this deal together. They know what they're buying into. They know it's worth. I would not count them out. You would be an idiot to count them out. It's dismissive. I think these people that are in, like I said, people are just arguing with me on Facebook about this. People don't want to know. You know, I try to educate them like he doesn't need to spend the full, he doesn't need to buy it out of pocket. You know, even if he doesn't get outside investors, he can leverage it with a bank. He can borrow the money to do it. You know what I mean? You don't need to buy out of pocket. You know, billionaires buy houses. They still take out mortgages and shit. Why? Because it's good for their credit and because it's not their money. They want to keep their money free to invest in other shit. They don't want to tie it all up. That's not how these things work. When I try to jump in and educate people, and again, I'm not a genius. I'm not a big business fucking. I got a business degree, but I'm not like, you know, Johnny fucking smart guy here on it. I followed the whole Twitter situation, and this is exactly what Elon Musk did. Elon Musk financed this buy. He did not spend $44 billion out of pocket. That's insane. So to say that the cons aren't going to spend $10 million out of their pocket, no, they're not. They wouldn't. And when I try to tell you that, who's going to buy WWE? Who's going to want to invest in it? And people, and then they throw out names. I got name called and shit. It's like you don't want to hear the correct answer is, oh, I wasn't aware of that. That's makes sense. Then I guess that does make it possible, doesn't it? But instead, they just want to try to dunk and make themselves sound right. And I schooled a lot of people. I had to block a couple of people, and it was a big mess. And I don't try to get into these messes out there on the internet. Just trying to spread knowledge. You would think just telling people how this business deal could be a possibility, people would be interested in that. But they're not. They don't want to hear that. They just want to hear that Tony Khan's a mark. He's an idiot, and his papa ain't got all the money to do it. And Daddy's not gonna spend $10 billion on his son's play toy. That's not the case. These are investments. WWE is a money printing machine. It is a wise investment. This is not a money loss to buy WWE by any stretch. You're not going to make it all back in your first year, but over time, this is going to be a very worthwhile investment for you. It's going to continue to get big media rights deals, maybe not if the Saudis get it or, whoever takes over. They might not be able to put together the same kind of deals that a Nick Khan could, for example. But, I mean, TV is out. TV is horny for live events. They're horny for live shows. People watch everything on demand these days. So the only time that people want to tune in and watch TV as it's happening is for stuff that's live and can't miss. Now, I'm not saying that every wrestling show is can't miss. What I am saying is when it's live, you're going to miss shit. A surprise return, a match, an injury, a debut, who knows? You know what I mean? There's always something that could happen that you're missing out on. And TV will pay prime fucking money for this shit. Not to mention all the licensing and all that kind of stuff. WWE is not going to lose anybody money, whoever buys it. So Shad absolutely sees dollar signs when he looks at WWE. And if you think I'm wrong, you're blind. You're not thinking rationally at this. Now, again, I don't think they're going to buy it. I think this deal is going to be a little bit too big for them. I think that is still a hefty investment for the Khan family to put in, even if they are only putting in like 1, 2, 3, 4 billion of their own money. That's still 1, 2, 3 out of 11. That's a giant investment. They're not wasting it. They're not losing money or throwing it away, but it's a lot to tie up in one deal. And for that reason, I don't know that they're going to make that move. But for anybody to sit out there and say with a straight face that they think this could not happen, it'll never happen, it's not capable of happening. It won't happen and not capable of happening are two very different things. And the Khan family is highly capable of buying this. And again, I've heard the rumor too, WWE's not going to want to sell to Tony Khan. They've been spending their time trying to, bury the Khan, AEW and all that kind of shit. They're not going to want to sell to their competition. My competition in the palm of my very hands. The very fate. Can you imagine the Tony Khan simulcast? Again, you guys are just uneducated. A publicly traded company has an obligation to their shareholders to sell to the highest bidder. So if the Khan family are able to put together a deal that is going to be a better deal than what NBC, Universal, Comcast could offer them or Disney would offer them, because these media companies can offer more than the Khans, and that's why I think they're ultimately going to be the ones that end up with it. But anybody that's in the pool to buy, if the Khans outbid them, WWE has to sell to them. They have to. They're obligated to. Twitter didn't want to sell to Elon Musk. They hated the idea of selling to Elon Musk. They refused it, but they had to because nobody was going to outbid Elon Musk in that. And they weren't even up for sale. Elon just said, you know what? I want to buy you guys. Here's my offer. And they fucking panicked. They're like, we don't want this. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And then they did what they were obligated to do, which was sell to Elon Musk. So if the Khan family comes to the WWE and says, here, bro, here's my $10 billion offer, and everybody else is coming in at 8 or 9, guess what? Guess who's getting the WWE? Tony fucking Khan. Now, I'll wrap this up here, but one other thing I wanted to explore on this is if this ever happens, which I don't think it will, but it could, and I'm not going to be surprised if it happens. You know, I'm not stupid or arrogant enough to think that this can't happen. They're a serious contender, and if they do buy it, I hope to God Tony doesn't try to book the thing himself or merge the two companies. That would be bad for the wrestling business as well, having a monopoly. So that's another reason why I kind of hope they don't. But it would be fun to see, and I trust WWE in Tony's hands. He loves wrestling enough, right? He's not going to try to do anything that's going to hurt the business or anything like that. But what would hurt the business is if he tried to book the whole thing himself. He's already, to book, he needs a booking committee. He needs a creative team around him for these things. He should not be running this company himself. He should be letting whoever else is running it, Triple H perhaps. I'm sure maybe he'd leave at that point. He needs to have somebody else running the WWE. He can't do all that shit himself. Or have somebody else run AEW if he wants to run WWE, whatever the case may be. Or maybe he merges the two and maybe AEW doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe it comes World Wrestling Elite or something instead of Entertainment. You never know how this shit could play out. But I hope to God, if they do end up with it, that Tony doesn't think that I can just play fantasy booker for a third promotion now, because that's just insane. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. We're going to get in another social media fight. We're going to get in the scraps in the comments. You guys are going to tell me how stupid he'll never buy it. I just explained it all in fucking plain English. So fuck you. But if you have another point of view, please leave it down in the comments below. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. So I've learned a new term over the last week or so that keeps popping up everywhere that I had not heard before, and that is palace intrigue, which is a situation in which powerful forces within a company or corporate environment are against each other. They're fighting. They're beefing within the company. That is palace intrigue, and I've heard this a bajillion times this week as the whole Vince McMahon hostile takeover, taking back over WWE, pushing himself back onto the board, removing people off the board, rewriting the bylaws that give him the permission to do whatever the fuck he wants, essentially. And with all of that, Stephanie McMahon saying, deuces, I'm out of here. Now, I covered this in an exclusive clip to YouTube earlier in the week, not part of the podcast, where Stephanie McMahon resigned from WWE earlier in the week. And that was just part of the crazy news from last week, right? The Saudis and everything else. It was just a nutty week. This whole thing is nutty. But with Stephanie resigning from the WWE, it, even though her resignation letter was all flowers and roses, and, now that the WWE has a great team in place, that they're in good hands, I'm going to go ahead and just resume my leave and take it one step further and peace out, and be a fan and just cheer them on from the other side. She tried to paint a good picture, but clearly there's more to this story than meets the eye. More than meets the eye, right? That was horrible. Stephanie McMahon leaving that soon after Vince pushed his way in has given way to lots of rumors that there's some palace intrigue going on here, as defined earlier on here. And I'm not the only one talking about this shit. I actually have a clip here from Wade Keller from the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast. him and a Rich Fan as his co-host, speculating on the inner turmoil with the McMahons. Check out this clip.
Because as much as he wants to take this, as much as he wants to take over the company, he needs a buyer, if there is going to be such a stupid person, in my opinion, that needs to install him as the furniture that comes with the property. Otherwise, with his voting block, he won't sell. And then at that point, I've seen reports, Fightful, Variety, some other places about if he doesn't sell. Brandon Thurston from Post and WrestleNomics mentioned, if there isn't a buyer out there that's willing to install Vince McMahon, is there a sale to be had, given his voting power?
Yeah.
And that's a very scary thing to think about.
Yeah, I think we have learned that Vince wants ultimate power, and he will have written in, the fear is he'll have written into any deal that he is going to be in charge. He's going to be the chairman as his TV character plays, and that will continue to be the case. This, if Vince McMahon remains healthy and coherent, he's going to be running WWE. That's what this says, barring whatever might be going on behind the scenes as some sort of counter move to this. And if there's a card to be played, what are the risks of that card being played, especially if it doesn't work? If the odds are good, it works. And I don't know what that counterplay is, but it's alluded to as something that could change this. And it doesn't mean it happens immediately, but that said, Stephanie's resignation happened quicker than the people that I was talking to expected if it was going to happen, which was a distinct possibility. This is sooner. So this goes back to what I said. If Stephanie wanted to create the sense that everything is good as her message on Twitter indicates, what a great day for WWE. I'll cheer him on from afar. But I'm resigning. Not just taking a leave. I'm resigning. But go get him, Dad.
Yeah, this whole thing doesn't sit right. That's the first thing I said when Stephanie resigned, is there's more to this story than what we're hearing or seeing. Stephanie, yes, she took her leave earlier last year, and then there was those leaks going out to the different news sites that Stephanie was bad at her job, that she wasn't doing a great job. And apparently her role was acquiring sponsorship deals and that kind of thing. And she just wasn't doing a great job of it, or at least that's what the leaks were saying. And then she was taking a leave. And it seemed like there were some issues going on even back then. But then, of course, just a couple weeks or maybe a month later, we heard all the dirt come out about Vince McMahon and all his accusations and that kind of thing. And this was something that the board was privy to prior to the public being privy to. Of course, Stephanie McMahon was on the board at the time, knew full well what was coming down the pipe about Vince McMahon, and in my opinion was just washing her hands of it, or highly outspoken about the situation to begin with. And maybe her, being outspoken wasn't taken too kindly to, and this is why they kind of tried to bury her to the various news sites that they did, and why she took her leave, why she was leaving the company at that time. Then when Vince had to step down, Stephanie was still on the board, and I think at that point, the idea was that we need a McMahon in charge. Nick Khan. There's too many Khans in pro wrestling, right? The Great O'Khan, Tony Khan, Nick Khan. Jesus Christ. Nick Khan is perfectly capable of running the WWE from the corporate side, and Hunter's perfectly capable of running the creative side of things. So Stephanie is really only there to be a McMahon. And, of course, she's been around the block. She's been with the company since she was a little girl modeling T-shirts. So she knows a thing or two, but really it could have functioned without her. But I think she came back and was co-CEO and chairman of the board because she's a McMahon. And that's going to make the stockholders nice and comfortable that we still have a McMahon in charge. They want to hear that name, McMahon. The name on the contract reads McMahon, but not Vince McMahon. Yeah. So I believed that to be the case. And look, maybe, Stephanie it wasn't I'm coming back part-time or whatever until we can fill this position. I do think I think it was more of a matter of Stephanie and Vince could not coexist anymore. And this is being backed up. Wade Keller said it in this podcast. He was talking about that he has heard things. He didn't elaborate or go into any further real detail other than that this didn't sit well with Stephanie and that Stephanie was not on board with this whole Vince McMahon thing. And now we're hearing that Stephanie and Triple H were kind of united against Vince McMahon in this whole situation. And this checks out because if you remember, before Vince bullied his way back into the company, he sent his letter of intent to return, and this was probably after he caught wind that J.P. Morgan Chase had been hired to sell the company. And Vince was like, well, God damn it, you're not going to sell it without me. So he wanted to push his way back in. And it was unanimous by the board that they did not want Vince back. It was not a good idea at this time to have Vince McMahon back in the company. This was a unanimous vote by the board. Now, certainly, when you're voting on the board, you can abstain from a vote. And I don't know if the numbers were released. If they were, I didn't look that deep into it to know, who all voted necessarily. But the vote was unanimous. So of those who voted, you got to imagine everybody voted, right? So this included this included Stephanie, this included Triple H, and this included Nick Khan, who's also been rumored to be on the side of Stephanie and Triple H against Vince. Everybody had thought right from the beginning. There's even memes out there of Nick Khan with his the gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet, collecting stones, and they're different McMahons and just people on the when Shane left, and then Steph, and then Hunter was gone for a while, and then he added the Vince stone. Lots of rumors that it was that, Nick Khan was secretly puppeteering behind the scenes to try to weasel his way into the top spot of the WWE, which, surprise, he's there. He's the CEO, the full CEO. So mission accomplished. However, Vince, being the chairman of the board, does have the power to remove Nick Khan at any point in time. Vince, as the chairman of the board, has ultimate power. The board can, there's nothing. He was able to bully himself back into the company. He can fire Nick Khan if he wants. He can take back over creative if he wants. He can fire Triple H. He can do any goddamn thing he wants as the chairman of the board. So it's a unique situation. But, lots of rumors that these factions were fighting against each other. And now it's Vince coming back in with Barrios and Williams. The two people that he had fired previously from the board. He's brought them back in. And they were active parts of the company. They weren't passively on the board just to vote heads up or thumbs down or whatever. These were people that were taking on roles within the company. I believe Michelle Wilson was the one that had been doing a lot of the shopping of the sponsorships and that kind of thing that Stephanie had taken over for, that she wasn't doing a good job of, or at least was noted publicly. So with them back in charge, it's kind of us against them in this whole big power play. Nick Khan is the guy that has the most to gain out of this whole mess, in my opinion. He's going to make $1 bajillion out of this deal. And then he's going to ride off into the sunset with on his resume being the guy that presided over a sale of WWE as the CEO. Add that feather to his cap along with all the other $1 billion deals he put together. And this guy is going to be able to walk into any company anywhere in the entertainment business and immediately get a high-profile $1 billion, multi-million-dollar, $1 billion job. He's the man. Nick Khan's the man. He's going to make out like a bandit. But you got to imagine then if they were all united unanimously against Vince coming back, and then Vince bullied his way back into the position, this is why Stephanie left. And you have to imagine that her husband, Triple H, isn't going to be like, well, Steph, I think Vince coming back is a good, you know what I mean? He's going to stand by his woman. Those two, they lay in bed together at night. They eat dinner together at night. They sit and they talk. They're the best friends. You know what I mean? Like, they've been together so long. They're a power couple onto themselves. They're united in this. There's no way that Triple H is in favor of all this mess while Stephanie is not. And that's why I think Triple H is the next to go. I don't know that Vince is going to let him go, or if he's just going to up and quit, resign. I think that very well could be, because as soon as Vince starts meddling in creative, that's going to have to be the last straw for Triple H. They don't need the goddamn money. They can go do other stuff. I think we're going to see Triple H leave before the end of the year. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. But certainly there's enough here to dig your fangs into, that there's some palace intrigue going on here, that it is not all rosy in the McMahon family. I bet Christmas dinner was very awkward. This is a situation that's ongoing, but at this point we have Stephanie resigning immediately after Vince coming back, moved out of her position as chairwoman. And Triple H probably going to be not far behind her. That's my guess, as WWE continues to move forward in its attempt to sell this year. But what do you think? What are your thoughts? Is this all just rumor and innuendo? Is everything just fine behind the scenes? Does Stephanie just want to take a leave of absence? I was going to leave before, and now everything's all okie dokie, and they don't need me anymore, so I'm just going to go be a mom now. Or is this more of a, fuck you, Dad, I don't want you around. Go away. Go retire. I'm going to put you in a retirement home the first chance I get. That'd be funny, too. Just fucking when Vince gets all crazy and senile, just lock him in a fucking old folks home. Throw away the key. Go away, Dad. This has got to be endlessly frustrating for Steph. I really like Steph, too. By all accounts, she's very well liked. She definitely has the authority. She's not afraid to put her foot down. She has that Vince in her, but she's more compassionate, more kind, more caring, more open to people's family situations. More sensitive to the women, obviously, for, a number of reasons. And that could be another reason why she's against Vince, too. As a woman, you're hearing all this stuff about your dad. Why do you want that shit around, And this is scaring a lot of the employees, too, not just the rosters, but also just the people that work for the company. Everything's in turmoil. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Stephanie just did that meeting with the all employees meeting saying nothing's going to change, and then fucking resigned 2 days later. So, and now Triple H apparently had a meeting with the roster at SmackDown, said everything's fine, nothing's gonna change. Yeah. We've heard that story before. Just last week we heard that story before. So nobody believes it. Everybody's on edge. Everything's up in the air. It's fucking chaos in wrestling, and I am here for it. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next. With all the chaos of the WWE potential sale and the Vince McMahon hostile takeover and Stephanie resigning and all the chaos surrounding it, one company that stands to benefit from this whole situation could be AEW. At least that's what Matt Hardy thinks could happen on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Matt was talking about the situation. Everybody's talking about the situation. Every podcast, everybody and their mom, this is the hot button issue. This is the biggest news story in wrestling of our entire lifetime, and it's happening now. It's unfolding now. And, even with the rumors of the Khan family, AEW buying WWE, even if they don't, could they stand to benefit from a sale of WWE, or at least all the chaos and turmoil and drama and rumor and innuendo and just uneasiness in the WWE situation. Could AEW benefit from that? Well, we'll explore that in the different ways that it could. But first, check out this clip of Matt Hardy talking about this on the extreme life of Matt Hardy.
So it's just going to be really interesting to see where WWE lies in 6 months from now. But as I said earlier, in chaos, there's opportunity. And I think just all this chaos going on, I think is going to be beneficial to Tony Khan and AEW more than anybody, because I think AEW has bought and earned a lot of goodwill with wrestling fans. And I think now with this WWE stuff going on, especially with the rumors that, oh my God, is Vince going to sell to Saudi Arabia, which is a very controversial, decision and discussion in itself. Like, AEW benefits from that because, like, well, I know we got AEW and they're very good to us. They're good to their fans, and they seem to be run by a good human being. And once again, I will, emphasize that Tony Khan is an amazing and phenomenal human being.
This was a very good episode, by the way. I don't know if you listen to the extreme life of Matt Hardy. Maybe you're not a Matt Hardy fan, so it doesn't interest you. I highly recommend, if you have not listened to this podcast, listen to the podcast. This episode specifically, it's a good starter point. But even in general, the extreme life of Matt Hardy is a very good podcast. Matt's a smart guy who's been around a long time, and he gets it. He's modern. He's up to date on things. He's got a very good take on a lot of things, and they talk very openly and honestly. And of course, his host, John Alba, I have just endless praise for John Alba and all the work that he does. He is also a fantastic host. He does the Strictly Business podcast with Eric Bischoff as well. John Alba, I got time for all day long. He's a good dude. In Matt Hardy. So enough plugs for that, but listen to this episode because it's fantastic. But, he's got a point there, Matt does, about AEW having the possibility to benefit from this whole situation. Even at the simplest of levels here, there's uneasiness with WWE, right? The roster, the talent. Remember when Vince left, it was ding dong, the witch is dead, da, 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 and everybody was like wanting to go fucking back to WWE now. Everybody that left, now everything's good over there, and Triple H is in charge, and now I want to go back over there and fuck this little AEW company. This was a good place to run and hide from Vince and still stay on TV and make a bunch of money. But I want to go back with Triple H. Well, not so fucking fast, right? It's turmoil. It's chaos. So at the simplest of levels, the very idea that talent is uneasy or don't know what to expect or what's going to happen next. Are they going to be working for the Saudis at some point? Is Vince going to take back over creative and fucking fire half the people because he's gearing up for a sale again? Or all of these things could be in play, and that's going to make talent pretty uneasy to want to jump ship or be as vocal backstage in AEW. Remember Tony was joking, everybody's being so nice to me lately, I wonder why. Yeah, I wonder why. This is going to continue. I think people are going to be more willing to kind of settle into AEW for a little bit and kind of see how things play out before they start being so vocal about wanting to jump back over to WWE. There's even jokes about some of these guys pulling the George Costanza, where after they quit, they just show up for work the next day and pretend it never happened. That's a possibility too. This shit's funny. It's funny to me. I enjoy all this very much. So in that sense, I think AEW has a lot to gain from this. And you know what? They have built up a lot of goodwill with the fans. They lost a lot of that, with the Punk situation, but I think they've done a good job of coming back from that, climbing back up. They're a new company, and I think, there's a lot of Fairweather fans, and there's definitely some really ridiculous tribalism out there where people are just going to be against AEW no matter what they do. But I think there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of support out there still for AEW. They've bought a lot of goodwill from the fans. And the more that WWE is in turmoil, the more bad will that they pass on to the fans, because the fans at the end of the day don't want to see Vince back in charge. I think that's fairly unanimous. There's some people who don't care. There's some people who want Vince in the seat, but I think the majority of wrestling fans think it's time for Vince to go, whether it's because of the scandals or it's because creative was just dog shit for so long that, you know, despite their WWE tribalism fandom, you know, that even they got to admit Vince shouldn't be there. So if Vince is the guy bullying his way back into positions of creative at some point, or if Triple H leaves, because Stephanie already left, and we talked about this earlier with the Palace Intrigue situation, obviously Triple H is going to be on the side of Steph. So how long is it before Triple H leaves WWE as well? He is not so he's not so rock solid in WWE anymore. You know, things aren't so stable that people want to jump over and work for him now. It's all up in the air. It's all chaos. And now that's not only for the wrestlers themselves, but I think the fans are it's going to cause more fans to flock over to AEW as they continue to just be stable, steady, reliable. And, you know, to be quite frank, you know, you can hate AEW all you want, but other than your just pure tribalism and your idiot markdom, oh, Tony Khan's a mark with his dad's money playing wrestler promoter. Shut the fuck up. You know, we have a company with by all accounts a really good, genuine dude, Tony Khan, an honest, a caring dude, a dude with morals and values, something that Vince has never had in his entire life. We have, you know, all the money in the world to pay talent what they deserve to be paid. He's treating talent phenomenally. He's giving them time off when they want it, to heal, to rest, to go do this, that, or the other thing. By all accounts, he's just a fantastic guy to work for, to be around, to hang out with. There's people that are salty with him. Oh, he doesn't contact us, and we really, just lets our contract run out, and it's fucking sour grapes. Doesn't matter. By all accounts, Tony Khan is running a pretty fucking good ship over there, right? The company is not in chaos. It's not, everybody knows who the boss is. It's not, oh, I don't even know what's going on around here anymore. And none of that shit's happening. He's giving lots of people opportunities, lots of money being handed out. He's doing all the right things. He's continuing to grow. They're making considerable gains overseas. There's markets that they're doing better than WWE in overseas. That's a fact. AEW is no slouch, despite what the fans want to think, the tribal fans. So I think that's going to continue to buy them a lot of goodwill, and the more that WWE loses goodwill, I think a lot of that's going to start to trickle over to AEW. Not all of it, because of the hate and the tribalism and the nonsense and all that. But as long as AEW can kind of keep their nose clean and keep trudging forward, they're going to be just fine. And, there's no worry about the stability of them. They're going to get a new TV deal. That's just a fact. The way that the TV rights deals are working these days, they're going to get a bigger deal than they were before. There's still people that want to say, oh, Turner could dump them at any time. It's just not going to happen. It's fantasy talk. Just kind of the way of the industry right now. Those live events, those live shows, those sports-like non-scripted contents come at a premium. It's something that's drawing people to watch. In AEW, despite their ratings struggling to get over 1 million, have been very consistent in both the demographic and the rating, and being in the top conversation of top shows on all of TV every week. So there's just nothing there. AEW is solid, it's stable, and it's growing despite what anybody wants to say. And the more that WWE becomes unstable, the more that WWE will become weaker. And depending on who ends up buying it, who ends up taking over creative, what they do with the talent, all of these things can play into AEW significantly benefiting from all of this stuff. Now, there is a way that AEW could not benefit from this in ways, and that's if all of this turmoil causes WWE to lose market value or get a smaller TV deal or to lose a TV deal, that could create the impression that that wrestling is not as big of a draw or as hot of a commodity or as valuable of a TV property as maybe once believed. And if WWE is struggling to hold a TV deal, which they won't, they're going to be fine unless the Saudis buy it. That's the only way that I see them having any issues here with their next rights deal. That could hurt AEW, right? If WWE is hurt in their next rights deal, that's going to trickle down and give the impression that AEW is not as valuable either. But WWE, if they get that big rights deal, which they will because Nick Khan's in charge, and that's what he does. He's the fucking man. And I believe their rights deal comes up before AEW's. They're going to get a nice big fat raise, and that's all Tony Khan's going to need to show his network that he needs a nice big fat raise as well, in which he will get. Not on the level of WWE, and maybe not significantly more. You know, I'm not talking double or even 1.5 times what he's making now, but they're going to get a nice big bump up, and they're going to be able to continue for another 3 or 4 years, you know, with the safety net of having that deal in place. So, yes, all of this looks really good for AEW. Plausible it could hurt AEW in the long run, but I don't see that happening. And I think Matt Hardy was dead on with this here. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Well, Logan Paul has gotten himself into quite a bit of trouble lately. His stock seems to be falling rather rapidly. And we haven't heard hide nor hair of him in the world of professional wrestling since his match with Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. And part of that could just be because he's out injured and that sort of thing. But I think more of it might just be because he's kind of a hot button issue right now. WWE might be trying to keep a little bit of a distance from Logan Paul, as he's certainly kind of got himself into a bit of hot water lately. First, starting with Coffeezilla. Coffeezilla is a YouTuber who is a YouTube journalist, if you will, kind of doing some investigative reporting into a lot of different things. And he's had a hair up his ass lately about Logan Paul and the whole crypto zoo, is that it? Crypto zoo NFT gimmick. Of course, those who have followed me on the Pro Wrestling podcast before know that I also had my dirty little paws in an NFT project as well. So I'm familiar with the NFT game to a certain extent, more on the art side of it. You know, I'm a graphic designer, that kind of thing. So I've done some artwork for NFT projects and been involved there. Logan Paul, though, his NFT project kind of came off a little shady. There was a little bit of dirt going on there, and really stirred up the internet as Coffeezilla started to dig into this. Check out this clip, just a small short sample of Coffeezilla going in on this whole Logan Paul crypto zoo NFT scandal situation.
I know it sounds stupid to buy an influencer project, but you have to understand, people saw Logan as different.
A guy like that identified, like Logan Paul being the head of the project.
They had seen this story he had been telling everyone that he was this reformed influencer, right? That he was no longer a reckless clout goblin just in it for the money. They thought this time it's different. Logan Paul couldn't possibly scam us, right?
Then, of course, we've had Logan Paul first come out and try to argue this and state his side of the story and say that he's innocent and all of this and, you know, blah, 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 and kind of push back against Coffeezilla. First, he was defiant, and then he was going to sue Coffee. I'm going to sue you for defamation and all that shit. And then now he finally kind of came out and was like, you know what? I'm not mad at you, Coffeezilla. I get it, and I'm going to make things right because I understand where people are coming from, a.k.a. I'm trying to fucking save ass here so I don't fucking get canceled. Check out this clip of Logan kind of kissing Coffeezilla's ass and trying to make good on this whole crypto zoo NFT debacle.
Coffeezilla is not a criminal. I called him. I apologize. Coffeezilla is not a criminal. I called him. I apologized. My initial response to his series was that of fire, an ego, Flair, whatever it is, pride. I'm a fighter at heart, and I was defensive because I know I never scammed anyone with this project. I never made any money, never sold any tokens, and I only had the best intentions going in. But the fact is that suing Coffeezilla is not going to help CryptoZoo holders, so I do need to focus my attention where it should be, which is on fans and supporters of me. You guys mean the world to me.
So for those that are not quite familiar with what NFTs are, I'm sure you've heard the term NFT and everything, or what this whole CryptoZoo gimmick is, or why it's a big scandal right now. So essentially, NFTs are just digital tokens that people can buy into, and that gives them either access to something or rights to something, or just gives them an investment into something, right? It's a digital token, and a lot of them are worth trash, and some of them could be worth money. They were, a year or so ago when the NFT craze was huge, and now that bubble's kind of popped. I think the NFT technology is still a very solid technology. It's right along up there with, the on the blockchain with, like Ethereum and Bitcoin and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to take a bunch of time to kind of explain all that because it's a big rabbit hole to fall into. But all the tech, for all the people that knock it and say it's a scam or whatever, the technology is very solid in what, in theory, a blockchain technology is. And, I think NFTs are going to serve a different purpose other than a digital picture of a kitty cat. It's going to turn into contracts and real estate and tickets to events, and all these things are going to turn into NFTs in the future. And they're going to play a bigger role in the digital world as we move into like metaverse, virtual reality, matrix type stuff, right? So that's gonna be kind of how things are done. So it's not inherently a scam to have an NFT, though most NFTs are just bust, right? Even my projects were, nothing to write home about. I made a few bucks off of them, but at the end of the day, it's, they didn't blow up or anything, right? So it's the .com bubble. And the thing with the Zootopia, why do I keep saying Zootopia? Was that a cartoon or a TV show or something? And then there's Fruitopia, the juice from the 90s. CryptoZoo. This was a thing that Logan had invested in, and then the short and dirty of this that Coffeezilla had exposed was essentially as they were getting behind a hype and a launch of this, and they got some early investors based on Logan Paul being a media personality, being an influencer, if you will. And then somewhere along the way, there was another investor, the guy on the crypto end of things, was kind of maybe doing some shady, underhanded stuff. This was in the initial investment. Prior to it going public, there were some, there was the people that were involved with the project were able to have first dibs on buying into this project. And there was like a secret investor that ended up kind of being the other partner who didn't really tell Logan he was doing this. And in turn, Logan's camp thought this was shady, and they kind of sort of pushed this guy out by canceling all of those initial tokens and like reissuing tokens, something to that effect. I urge you to seek out Coffeezilla and get the whole scoop. That's kind of the quick and dirty gist of what this is all about. So it kind of became, who's the shady partner in this? Is it Logan? Was he being shady to this guy, or was this other guy being shady to Logan? And either way, all of the other people who invested in this project when it went public were left out in the dirt because Logan walked away from the project, wiped his hands with it, blamed it on somebody else being shady, and left all these other motherfuckers hanging with this giant investment out there that they thought they were buying in on based on trusting and liking and following Logan Paul, right? Think of somebody that you like and you trust and you believe in, and they tell you that, hey, this project's going to be dope, and then they just fucking wash their hands of it and walk away and leave you hanging, and the project never even comes out. It was supposed to be a game of some sort involved with this crypto token, and none of that came to fruition, and it became a big mess, and that's what Coffeezilla's been digging into, and he really pissed off Logan Paul. But Logan's now trying to backtrack out of that, and it's got him a lot of ill will with a lot of people right now. It's a big scandal. It really is. It's a financial scandal, and Logan's going to do what he can to try to make it right. I don't know if he can at this point, though. But that's not the only dirt that Logan Paul has stepped in. It's not the only pile of shit that he's stepped in recent weeks here, as another story has made it out over this fucking pig, a wild pig. Apparently Logan had bought a pig, believing it to be one of those little teacup mini pigs that you just they just run around the house like a dog or a cat, basically, which are adorable, by the way, and I absolutely want one. As soon as I get rich, I'm going to buy a little mini pig and let him run around and oink all over my house. And they're cute. They're fun pets. A lot of people get them. But apparently it ended up not being a teacup pig. It was a giant fucking warthog-sized pig it grew into. And Logan had him for a while till apparently I think he moved to Puerto Rico. And it was there that he had to give up this pig, at least according to Logan, and he rehomed the pig to some kind of farm, which according to the story had sold it to another farm who just let the fucking pig run wild. And now this pig was found feral, essentially just wild, fucking looks like it'd been traumatized, been through a bunch of shit, emaciated wild pig, which was identified to be Pearl, I think is the name, the very pig that Logan Paul used to own. And TMZ got a hold of this scoop this week, and they posted a video here where they actually spoke with Logan Paul about this situation. Let's take a look at this one.
The situation sucks. There's no other way to put it. I found out about the situation Pearl was in yesterday. She was not at the home that I dropped her off at, which I visited myself and left her in great condition.
You took her to this farm in Santa Clarita. Do you have any idea when or why that farm where you did take her to be rehomed, why they gave her up to someone else?
So apparently that ranch owner moved to Nevada and could not take Pearl with her. So that homeowner or ranch owner gave Pearl to the farmer across the street. And then, to my understanding, that farmer called the Gentle Barn to come pick her up.
People figured out it was your pig, and then there was all this backlash, and people were, because the way that TikTok went out, it did make it seem like you were the person who had abandoned Pearl.
Yeah. The verbiage they used was she was irresponsibly rehomed. So the first thing I did was I checked myself. I said, wait a second, was she irresponsibly rehomed by me? Absolutely not. She was put in an amazing horse ranch where she lived an amazing life for 10 months. When that homeowner relocated and the pig swiped hands again, it was something that I didn't know was taking place. And apparently that farmer called the Gentle Barn to come pick her up. I found this out yesterday, and I emailed the Gentle Barn immediately and offered to help in any way I could.
Yeah, this could be some backtracking by Logan. There could be some shadiness going in there. A lot of times pets get abandoned, especially by these celebrities who don't really have the time or will or care to take care of these pets. They just want them for the Instagram pictures or whatever. And that's kind of the accusation against Logan Paul at this point, is he's just a bad pig dad and let this fucking animal run wild. Apparently he has a history of this. There was another instance of him kind of abandoning a pet somewhere along the way. But Logan maintains that he gave this pig a good home, and that good home gave the pig a bad home. And that's how this whole thing happened. And Logan's, reached out and offered to help in any way he can, AKA, how much money do I need to pay to make this go away? Poor Logan. I, to this day, am still not a hater of Logan, despite all of this. And this on top of, he spent a lot of time trying to crawl back out of the hole and climb back from the disaster of when he went and filmed a YouTube video in the Japanese suicide forest and found an actual real life dead body and filmed it and had a really awkward reaction to it. And that got a lot of people upset. He just a lot of bonehead moves, bonehead move after bonehead move after bonehead move. He's out there. He's publicly getting into it with Floyd Mayweather, saying he wasn't paid fully for that fight. All of these things, Logan just seems to always be into some kind of trouble. And despite all this, I maintain that Logan is a good human being. I like to consider myself a fairly good judge of character overall, and I kind of see Logan as he's kind of just a doofus, right? He's a stupid kid. I think gets himself into a lot of trouble because he's a bonehead, but I think his heart is in the right place overall. I don't think he has bad intentions per se. I think he has attitude problems at times, and I think he's just kind of a doofus. I think gets himself into a lot of hot water because he's got a big mouth and he's very passionate, and he overreacts to things at times. But I think he has a good heart. I think overall he's a good person, and I think he does the best he can, and I think he's a genuine guy. I really, really do. Just following him, listening to his podcast, you can get a good read on people, I think there's just a giant immaturity to him. He's a lot of times comes off as a little kid, a grown-up kid, a big kid who fell into a lot of money and fame, and he's just out there playing and having a good time. Doesn't really think things through all the time, or have the best head on his shoulders or the best people around him. He surrounds himself with his buddies as his main inner circle, which is fine, but they're all kind of a bunch of doofuses too. These are frat boys. These are college bros, and they're not the wisest of people. But I have to think that Logan's heart is in the right place. I'm gonna take him at face value on the pig gimmick. I hope this pig has its own little run out there and can stay in the public eye as a celebrity pig. That would be fun. But the crypto thing's a whole nother ball game. There's definitely some shady shit going on there. Some shady shenanigans, as Eric Bischoff would say. But I don't know that the absolute truth will come out on that. But I highly recommend you dig into the Coffeezilla series on YouTube regarding Logan Paul. I think he's done like 3 videos on the whole thing. Just kind of doing a deep dive into the whole thing and kind of exploring the different angles, trying to find who's at fault and get to the bottom of the whole scam. And, maybe Logan was up to no good there, but I got to think he's just a moron, got himself in over his head there and didn't respond to allegations and fallout in the best way possible. But that's just my thoughts on it. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. What do you think? What do you think of Logan Paul overall? From the wrestling perspective, he was the rookie of the year last year, right? I think it's undeniable. Nobody was a better first match performer than Logan Paul, maybe in the history of professional wrestling. He had a fantastic year in WWE last year. By all accounts, he's on his way back to WWE for, if not the Royal Rumble, at least WrestleMania. There's rumors that he's going to be facing John Cena at that point. And WWE's just going to ignore all that and sweep it all under the rug. But, even I didn't bring it up right away, as it wasn't necessarily wrestling news. But I think, at this point, there's been enough, especially with the pig now. I think Jim Cornette was talking about this as well. At this point, there's enough getting out there about Logan being involved in a lot of shady shit that I think it's time to address it to the pro wrestling community as a potential issue to keep an eye out for here. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. It has been 35 plus years since Ric Flair was in his prime as the NWA World's Traveling Champion, a top draw in the world of professional wrestling, at least according to the Peacock network, which has touted that the Ric Flair's Becoming Ric Flair documentary has quickly become the highest viewed piece of content on the entire network. Ric Flair blowing the fuck up, had like 1 million+ views on its first day that it dropped, trumping anything that AEW does in the ratings, and comparable to the kind of ratings that the WWE does themselves. Ric Flair being a guy that has been out of his prime for so long, he hasn't even been in a ring since WrestleMania 24, at least for WWE. Of course, he was just in the ring, last year for his last match. But it's been 24 years since he's wrestled on national TV for the WWE. Of course, we don't count TNA, and that doesn't count. So, did I say 24 years since WrestleMania 24? How long has that been? It's been over 10. It's been like 15 years. It's a long ass time to be off TV and to still be a top draw. But don't take my word for it. Check out this clip of the Nature Boy and Conrad Thompson on To Be the Man.
Right now, I'm focused on the fact that 2 hours of Flair is worth more than 2 hours of live TV.
You know what? Let's actually talk about that. Because I know you got the inside scoop, and I think our graphic extraordinaire, our third man on the show today, Dave Silva, who's
that's gonna get some bad vibes.
Hey, let's talk about it. If you're not going to promote yourself, who is? I think Dave's got a graphic for us. This is directly from WWE. WWE content on Peacock was taken over by Ric Flair during the holidays. Over 70% of all content viewed included Ric. Woo, becoming Ric Flair, is quickly becoming the most watched WWE original hour on Peacock. Woo, becoming Ric Flair, is on track to beat WWE Evil as the #1 documentary on Peacock, and it has an 88% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's remarkable. Listen, when people think, oh, well, that's it, this is his swan song, we'll never hear from Ric again. Here you go. Man, the gift keeps on giving.
It's heat, though.
But you love it. Come on now.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying that's like over 1 million views of the first day.
I'm sure.
If you it could be a minuscule, a very, very minuscule raw rating, and for sure an AEW rating.
It's amazing the run that Ric Flair is on right now, just as an iconic personality. I think his stock is as high, if not higher, than it ever was, really, and that's not hyperbole. When he was running on top of the NWA, that was territorial, that was regional, that was a southern thing. Historically, when he came up to WWE the first time, he was not the draw that people thought he might be, because people up in New York didn't know Ric Flair or didn't care about Ric Flair because he wasn't on their TV regularly. Whether they knew of him from the magazines or not, it just wasn't as big of a deal as it probably should have been at that time. And that's why they didn't do the Hulk Hogan Ric Flair main event at WrestleMania, because Ric Flair wasn't really drawing that big of house shows when he was working with Hulk around the loop on some of those house shows. So Ric Flair is arguably a bigger name now than he ever was when he was in wrestling. And you look at things like the Ric Flair drip, his integration into hip hop culture with the rappers and stuff. He's huge in the rap community, and all he's got to do is just woo woo woo. He's hanging out with Mike Tyson now, doing the weed gimmick and stuff. He's got his woo wings. This man is on fire. He is branding himself as a personality, and this documentary shows it. And then all the celebrities that got involved with that documentary as well, commenting on it. Ric Flair seems to be at the forefront of pop culture. He's on the tip of everybody's tongue still to this day. And this is despite, a lot of the beefs that Ric's been in and some of the ways that his mouth has gotten him into some troubles as of late, Eric Bischoff and Jim Ross and that kind of thing. All of that aside, man, Ric Flair is a icon and a national treasure, and it just doesn't seem to be going away. Even after this man passes, his image is gonna be iconic. It's gonna live on. It's gonna be legendary for a guy like Ric Flair. And this is funny. I kind of jumped into the comments a little bit on the Ric Flair drip music video, just kind of see what the hip hop community was saying about Ric. It's insane how well Ric Flair fits in with this. You would think that an old ass white dude, fucking pro wrestler from the 80s, wouldn't fit into the hip hop culture, but he does like a glove. It's the bling bling culture, right? It's the drip, it's the swag. It's Ric Flair has been doing that shit since the 80s. Hip hop culture has bit that from Ric Flair. They're trying to live up to Ric Flair's standards. There's a scene in the video where they're all putting their watches out together, a couple rappers and Ric Flair. And it's like, that's not Ric Flair trying to pretend to be a rapper guy or fit in with the rapper kids. These guys that's Ric Flair shit putting out the watch. That's Horseman stuff, right? Show those watches. This is, you know what I mean? Ric Flair is a big time icon in professional wrestling. And at this point, an even bigger icon, a bigger celebrity in the pop culture, in the zeitgeist of Americana. It really is. And this documentary is proof of that. Just the fact that it's blowing up. It's the highest rated thing on Peacock, at least for the WWE. I don't know if it's outdoing like Black Mirror and stuff like that, but it's certainly the most watched thing wrestling related, which makes him the highest draw, or at least one of arguably the highest draws in professional wrestling, is he not? He's getting more eyeballs than the actual wrestlers themselves, and like he said in his clip, it's going to get him some heat perhaps, but it's true, and you can't take that away from the Nature Boy. He's doing fantastic. And he's built up such an image for himself. And you know what? Good for him. As much as I'm critical of Ric's bitterness and the way that he, gets insulted and offended by everything, and he's always kind of got something negative to say about somebody somewhere, you can't deny that the dude is killing it out there still to this day, keeping his brand alive and well, and keeping his name out there in pop culture, and just being a fucking megastar. Ric Flair is the man, and I don't think it can be denied at this point. But what are your thoughts? That's about all I got to say on it. I won't keep you any longer. Let me know your thoughts down below, though. How do you see this whole thing? Why do you think Ric Flair is still such a major draw? Do you think it's just his integration with hip-hop culture and pop culture in general, and having all these celebrity friends and that kind of thing? Or do you think it's just, I don't know what it is. So you let me know down in the comments below, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Woo! Those watching Dynamite last week would have saw FTR be written off of TV as they had their funeral services presided over by the Ass Boys on national TV. FTR, the belt collectors around the world, getting the AAA tag titles, the fucking Ring of Honor tag titles, the IWGP tag titles. They had them all, and then they lost them all. And it seems that FTR is certainly wrapping up all of their commitments and possibly on their way out. At least that's how it would look on the outside. But what is exactly going on with FTR? Why are they written off of TV? Why are they dropping all of their tag titles? And when is their contract up? Well, all of these answers were cleared up by Dax Harwood himself on his brand new podcast, FTR, Family, Tequila, and Wrestling. Check out this clip.
We're on the tail end of our career, okay? I mean, I'm 38 years old. I talked last week about how hard it is for me to play with my daughter and things like that. We're on the tail end of our career now. And so I think right now, this point in our career is the most important time in our career. I mean that monetarily. I mean that creatively. I mean that personally. It is the most important time of our career. With that being said, we have asked and been granted the next few months off of television so we can sit back, reflect, decide, let our bodies heal, and figure out what we are going to do for the next few years, because whatever we decide to do next will be the absolute last thing we do, period. As far as wrestling, I don't see myself after I'm done with whatever we're going to decide next. I don't see myself in 5 years going on the independence and wrestling independence. I don't see myself working in 5 years, a Japan tour or a Mexico tour, or traveling around the world and wrestling all over places. That's why these next few months are the most important few months for us. By April, at least, at most, we will have an answer. But now, again, I have to take in my health. I have to take in my family. I have to take in my creativity. And I have to take in my personal life all into consideration about what we're going to do next. I know what I want to do, but whatever we do, I just want to be respected. We, I feel, have done something so special in 2022, and most of that is in part to the fans. I think we deserve to continue to build on our legacy for ourselves, but also we owe it to the fans to build on that legacy because they made us this past year. So that's my news, is we are going to be away for a little while. I'm not sure exactly how long we'll be away. It may be all the way up until the end of our contract. I don't know yet.
When does your contract expire?
Contract is up in April.
I'm continuing to be a giant fan of the FTR podcast with Dax Harwood. Not just because, FTR is my favorite tag team. I've been open about that. I think they're probably my favorite act in wrestling, period, to be honest with you. Can't think of anything that's more over with me than FTR is right now. They've done fantastic work in the last year, especially on their little belt collector tour and all of that. Just doing great shit, and Dax has been continuing to, be very open and honest on his podcast and straightforward, shooting from the hip. His host, Matt Kuhn, always does a great job. I'm very high on him as a podcast host. And, despite people getting their panties in a bunch over things that Dax have said, allegedly anyway. He got into it with the Road Dogg recently, and then he got into it, supposedly he's got heat with the AEW locker room over his Punk podcast and all of that. FTR, Dax is just out there just spitting truths, and he spit his truth in that clip. FTR asked for time off, and rightfully so, dude. They're so banged up. They've been working so hard. They need a break. Not just being banged up from their matches and working hard in their matches, but just the international travel back and forth, and just they deserve a break. But, Dax was 100% clear. Our contracts are up in April, and we might not even be back on TV by then. We got the next couple months off, and why would they come back before April just to, be written off TV again? I think they were clearly written off of TV, and, he made no bones that they are open for business, that they're going to take that time together to evaluate the state of FTR, the state of the wrestling business, Dax did say that all the WWE turmoil is absolutely being taken into consideration with things. You know, when Vince left, obviously they wanted to get away from Vince and his delusions. You know, there's that infamous picture out there of the uber gimmick FTR, you know, the revival, you know, oh, you want us to be a gimmick? Well, we're going to be all the gimmicks. And that was going to be their gimmick going forward. Clocks around their necks and shit like Flava Flav. Yeah, there's no doubt they wanted to get away from Vince McMahon's insanity. But with Triple H in charge, Triple H, FTR was his boys. You know what I mean? And I think they had a lot of trust and goodwill in Triple H that he wouldn't do them dirty. But now all that's up in the air. And Dax said, you know, make no mistake, we will not be disrespected or work with anybody that's not going to treat us like we deserve to be treated. And that could have been seen as like a veiled shot at Tony Khan, perhaps. I think that's, and maybe it is to a certain extent, because we can all say that FTR has not been used the best, despite, you know, the belt collector outside of AEW. They've been used phenomenally. This was their best year probably ever, honestly. But in AEW proper, it hasn't been their best year. I think maybe last year or even the year before was a bit better for them. You know, they lose a lot of matches. They weren't getting the big ones that they were, you know, and despite Dax being very diplomatic, saying that, you know, the Young Bucks are on his Mount Rushmore and that, you know, the beefs aren't really real. He's got all this respect for the Young Bucks. You know, deep down that there's some shit going on that kept FTR off of TV. And it was even, you know, revealed a little bit when Dax was talking about when Cash almost quit because of the arm injury. You know, it was kind of like a this isn't worth it kind of thing. And they kind of agreed that despite how they're going to be used, they're just going to have fun. So they weren't used the best in AEW. I would have used them much better. I would have had them just fucking run the tag team gauntlet, basically. They would have been my fucking champs. Still, to this day, they would be the top team in my company. But that's just me. So there may be some there, but I think a lot of that also is, you know, pointed at Vince with him back in the company now. And he obviously had zero respect for FTR at all. And it's just not something that they're going to tolerate. And Dax has hinted that they might just take a year off. Whatever the case may be, he did say that this is going to be their last move. Wherever they go, wherever they sign, it's going to be their last big run. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago that this is inevitable. This is where FTR is going to lie. They're going to take their week off or their year off. Most likely, I think they're not going to sign with anybody when their contract runs out, unless Tony offers them a boatload of money and gives them a really good pitch about how he wants to use them going forward, which he should. If I'm Tony Khan, I make a giant play for FTR. I'm a big tag team mark, though. I want my tag team division to be the best, and I would want FTR in my tag division. But, you know, and I do very much see them, you know, based on what Dax has already talked about, taking that year off to just rest, heal, work when they want to, not have to work for anybody or be anywhere they don't want to be or show up at any particular time or what. They can just truly be independent contractors, take bookings here and there wherever they want. And, you know, I would say get some of the other bucket list indie stuff out of their system, but they've been able to do a lot of that while under contract with AEW anyway. You know, they were just at Wrestle Kingdom, had a hell of a match over at Wrestle Kingdom. And just, you know, the hell of a match they had with the Briscoes, all three matches they had with the Briscoes. Jesus Christ, right? Match of the year contenders for sure for 2022. But I could absolutely see them taking their year off before they jump into a whole nother contract. Maybe not even a full year, maybe just a half a year, a couple months. Who knows? And then they're going to sign, and this is what I had said before, they're going to sign the contract, and this just confirms it to me with Dax saying that this will be their last big deal because they're not going to wrestle forever, that they're going to go where the biggest paycheck is. And it's going to be less about their legacy to an extent, I don't think they're going to want to go work anywhere where they're going to get clocks put around their necks and get broken up and have to do singles and jobbed out to everybody and their mom. Like, they're not going to go out like bitches, but I think they are going to be looking for that big money deal that they can retire on, that they can, Dax has said they're looking into a coffee shop and real estate and a wrestling school, and they're just going to get out of the full-time grind, and I don't blame them. They're getting up there, and they've worked hard, and they've banged up their bodies. Now is the chance to go for the giant paycheck. Tony can cut it. He's got the money to do it. It depends, I think, where WWE is at that time. Certainly they're not going to sign their giant paycheck deal with New Japan exclusively and spend all that time away out of the country with their families. So I think they're out of the running. And there's Impact's not going to be able to pay them the big bucks. So honestly, it's between WWE and AEW, clearly. And I think it'll depend on what the state of WWE is at the time that they are ready to re-sign, and wherever they sign, it's going to be for a boatload of money, and rightfully so. And they're just going to coast on that, and they're going to retire off of that, and that's going to be their last big run. And it'll be sad to see them go. I think FTR is the epitome of tag team wrestling. It's everything that I like about wrestling. They go out there, they hit hard, they're physical, they're believable, everything's a struggle. Their psychology is masterful. Every little thing that they do has a point. It has, they're great at telling stories, they're great at working together, they're great at the urgency and the frustration and just everything, man. They're fucking masters. They are absolute masters. They put on a clinic every time they step in the ring. I absolutely love them to death, and I hope the very best for them. And honestly, greedily, I hope they stay, selfishly, I guess is a better word, I hope they stay in AEW. I tend to like AEW better than WWE. There's not a lot in WWE that I'm a fan of still, even with Triple H taking back over, and they've done significantly better things than they have and stepped up a lot since Vince McMahon stepped down. But I'm not a fan of a lot of the wrestlers there that are on top. I don't care. I just prefer AEW, and I think there's going to be better tag teams to work with in AEW, and I think it's going to give FTR the opportunity to still go to Japan anytime they want, go to Mexico anytime they want, or work for Ring of Honor anytime they want, and they're going to have that freedom to be independent contractors out there, still working hard and being the best tag team in the world. And Tony Khan's got the money to pay them just as much as WWE will. So it's not, WWE is the big payday to retire on. They can retire on AEW money too. It just depends what's offered and what the state of everything is, who they'll be working for, and what the greater landscape is too. What teams are there to go work with in WWE? Usos, obviously, but beyond that, there's options, I guess, but I just think they're gonna have more to work with in AEW. But that's just my thoughts. It remains to be seen, and ultimately they're gonna do what's best for them. Well, what do you guys think? Are you gonna be sad to see FTR go? Where would you like to see them land for their final run? And anything else at all? The Dax's podcast, what do you think of that? Literally anything. It helps the algorithm. Let's just get the conversation going down in the comments below, and we're going to move on to the next. Say yeah! Well, Mandy Rose, now known as Mandy Sachs, or Mandy Sacamano is I think her legit last name, has finally broken her silence doing her first interview since her release from WWE, her controversial release from WWE, and since she became a fucking millionaire basically overnight. Look, dude, she made more money in like a month for this fans time gimmick than fucking she ever would have made in WWE in like 5, 6, 7 years. It would have taken her years to make that money in the time, what took her months to make on fan time. And I know, Booker T's out there, oh, this is not sustainable. No fucking shit, moron. Doesn't mean you don't leave and take the money now. it's not sustainable, so you can't do that forever. So you should stay in WWE and make $100,000 a year for fucking 10 years or whatever, because that's stable and sustainable, rather than taking the chance to do this fan times gimmick and make $1 million. Shut the fuck up, Booker. Bad take Booker. That's what I always call him. So she can always go back to WWE, and she will when things start to slow down. And mark my words, she'll be back in WWE, and she'll be a bigger star when she does go back to WWE because of all of this. But all of this shit happened, the ups and downs of Mandy Rose, and she finally broke her silence on the Tamron Hall show. Tamron Hall. I've heard this name before, Tamron Hall. I legit thought this was a place, a venue of some kind, Tamron Hall, when I first heard it. I swear to God, that's not a joke. That's not me just playing with you. I legit thought Tamron Hall was a place, not a person, but it's a person and a show. And Mandy Rose was on it talking about her WWE release. Check out this clip.
Your reign as champion was to end. Did you know why?
No, I didn't know why. Like I said, I was just told that I was going to be losing the title, and we were going off the momentum of a pay-per-view event, and this is how it works. And like I said, anything can happen. So was I shocked? Yeah, of course I was shocked. But there was some inclination of just kind of how it went down, how everything was what was going on.
When were you first told that this might be linked to the content that you'd posted on a fan site?
I was never told that.
You were never told
that? No. And, regardless of, what happens, there's obviously some confidentiality when it comes down to it too. But no, I was never told that. I just, as the professional woman that I am, when I'm told that we're going to be losing the title, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get to work. So
I guess what I'm asking, there are reports that the WWE reportedly warned you to take down what was on that subscription site. Is that true?
Well, unfortunately, like I said, there is confidentiality, and I can't really address that. But there really was one warning just to take it down, and I complied. And everyone has their own opinion of what they think is appropriate and what not.
Because you're the person here who fans believe were wronged. I mean, I'm telling you, on social media, people have been tweeting. I'm not kidding. There are, people outside waiting for you. You've been quiet for 27 days. We're on live TV. This is your chance. Were you wronged by WWE here?
Because of everything that's happened since then, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And I can't even say I was wrong, because I am so forever grateful for everything that the WWE has presented me with. So I can't sit here and say that I was wronged or not, because the overwhelmingly,
are you hurt by it?
I'm hurt 100%. Yes, I'm hurt. I'm very hurt.
God, Mandy's a goddamn babe, isn't she? She's a thickie, though. Like, she's beefy compared to other women. You don't notice it in wrestling, because all the women's wrestlers they're all in shape, they all have some sort of build to them, at the very least, but when you put her next to like a Tamron Hall, Mandy looks like a wrestler. Her arms are beefy, her shoulders are wide, she's fucking lean, rock solid, tan going on. She looks like $1 million because she's worth $1 million. And she was playing the political a little bit. I think she knows too that she's going to go back to WWE. I think that's inevitable, especially with all the hype and the namesake and the just, she's not going to lose any value from leaving WWE at this point. If it goes like 5 years and nobody's ever heard of her anymore for a while, maybe that'll change. But I think she'll go back and she'll be worth significantly more than she was the first time. So this was all around a good business decision for her. And, like I said, she was kind of playing the political game. Didn't want to, because Tamron was looking for that. She kept kind of poking, was like, is there some hypocrisy going on here? Did WWE this, that? She was trying to get some dirt and get Mandy to kind of say that, that she was, whatever the case may be. But Mandy did say that she was hurt by it. She was able to muster that she was hurt. And that, it was, a heavy blow to be, she was kind of caught off guard by it, and it's a heavy blow to be let go, and she made the most out of it. She turned water into wine, if you will. She made chicken salad out of chicken shit. She did great for herself. She's doing great for herself. And this was a very good move for Mandy. I'm glad that she's a millionaire. It's fleeting. It's temporary. She's not going to continue to make $1 bajillion off of this, especially while she's off of TV. But in the meantime, fucking get that money, girl. Do your thing, girl. She's making herself a bigger star and a hotter commodity, more talked about. She's going to come back with a bigger contract than she left with. Mark my motherfucking words. Maybe WWE doesn't bring her back right away. Maybe she goes to AEW. Maybe she stays out of wrestling altogether and pursues other shit. Who knows? But I definitely see why she was hurt by this. But I also think she understands that she's not, that door is not closed. The door is open for her to come back. And if she can make the money while the money making's good right now and fucking show that ass and get those fucking paychecks. She is not doing full nudes, apparently, despite the rumors. She's doing I believe it was those pool pictures where you could clearly see the tits below the water, but it wasn't full frontal. It was still, I guess, discreet or artsy in a way. Also, she's married to, is that Tino Sabatelli? Is that what that guy's name was? That fucking, I recognize him. I think that was his name. They showed that was her husband. Apparently, he's done some of these racy pictures with her as well. Hey, look, I'd throw money at that. I'd watch those two fuck on camera all day long. Fucking sign me up, right? Just two fucking supermodels of people. You know what I mean? It's a good life for Mandy. She's living the good life, and good for her. I think she's played her cards about as right as she possibly could. And, I think all's going to work out just fine for her. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Was she stupid to leave WWE for her fan time, like Booker T says? It's not going to last forever. It's not sustainable. Or do you think she was fucking genius for picking one over the other because she's obviously just going to end up back in the E anyway? But let me know what you think down in the comments below. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next motherfucker. That's it. That's all I got for you. What a show. What a fucking loaded show. Holy hell. Wrestling has been insane the last couple weeks. I absolutely love it. I look forward to sitting down and talking to you guys every single week. It still humbles me to no end that you guys listen, that you guys watch. I'm still, look, I'm a low-level YouTuber. I haven't even hit 1,000 subscribers yet. Which, by the way, if you're listening to this, go fucking subscribe. What are you waiting for? But yeah, I'm still working my way up on that grind. That's my goal for this year, is to have that 1,000 subscribers, to have the YouTube monetized. That will be what I'm looking to do this year. But look, I'm just a fat nerd sitting in the basement yelling at a microphone. That's, that's how I identify in the wrestling world here. And, sure, I like to fancy myself a podcast journalist at times with my writing and journalism background. Sure, I have a little bit of experience, on the indie wrestling level to some extent. But, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy yelling at a microphone in my basement. A nerd like all of you, a wrestling fan, an unabashed wrestling fan. And these are just my thoughts and my opinions, educated as they may be sometimes and sometimes not. Sometimes, some rants and sometimes some education. But at the end of the day, I'm a guy yelling at a microphone in my basement, and I'm humbled to death that you guys watch. So thank you so much. If you haven't, please like, follow, and subscribe at Seth Grimes Media on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Been posting shorts there again, where you can catch little short snippets of this show. And I also will post my random thoughts and opinions and just any other nonsense that pops into my head, wrestling related or not. It's a good place to just kind of catch some extra bonus content from me on all of those platforms. So if you're there, hit me up, subscribe, follow, whatever the fucking gimmick may be. And let's keep the party going over there. Hit subscribe on the YouTube if you could. Pretty please. Every subscription counts on my way up to being monetized. It's super important for me, as this is my goal to do this shit full time, and as I do, I'm going to continue to crank out more content. I got a lot of fun projects in the works, in planning here. I should say in the works, because I've already started working on the graphics for a lot of these things. I got a new series that I'm working on. I don't know if it'll be a weekly gimmick or a monthly or just any time I can get one up. But I do got a new wrestling series that I'm working on. I'm going to keep it kind of hush-hush for now until I drop it, because I think it's a good idea and I don't want other people to steal it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm working on that kind of shit. Also got a book out, The Gathering, A Bold Journey into the Belly of the Juggalo Underworld. It's a novel about a dude who goes to the Juggalo Music Festival, hates it there, but he does a lot of drugs, interacts with a lot of wrestlers and wrestling situations, and it's some good fun. I highly recommend you listen to it on Audible, or if you're a reader, you can pick it up on Amazon. I'm also working on another book, non-wrestling related, though I do have an idea that I just thought of this week, actually, for a wrestling-related book that I could be pumping out in the future. But I have been hard at work on another book, so I am going to have a new book out this year, something very different outside of wrestling and that kind of thing. So lots of things popping, big things popping, little things stopping, as they say. But just thank you for being here, hanging out, listening, watching, whatever you do, jerking off to my face, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Just thanks for the love. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and this has been the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Oh, that was horrible. That wasn't even, it worked it all up, and then it was just kind of Pro Wrestling.